endured the delights of home and Flaw Valleys, and turned up 6 days later in Scotland. Austen Gray, as it happened, reached Scotland before them. Voluntary and kind-hearted harbinger, he took his horse over the border and, traversing the hills of the lowlands, reached that part of Lanarkshire west where the castle of Mid-Coulter stood. There he called on Sibylla, the Dowager Lady Coulter, and delivered to her certain papers at Philippa Somerville's behest. Sibylla welcomed him in. White-haired, blue-eyed and urbane, she was quite capable of dealing with diffident young English noblemen and putting them instantly and disarmingly at their ease. Only after he had settled in front of her beautiful fireplace with a cup of her equally desirable wine in his hand, did she glance at the packet he had given her and say, "But it is for Mistress Somerville of Flaw Valleys." Austen Gray said, "Yes, I thought she was here." For an elderly lady, the blue eyes confronting him were disconcertingly shrewd. "Yes, she is," Sibylla said. "May I know who this is from?" "I felt," said Austen Gray, "that you should break the news, Lady Coulter. Mistress Somerville's daughter is home. She is travelling north. She should be with you in 2 or 3 days. The letters are from Philippa to her mother." Sibylla's eyes had become very bright. Then, "You've seen her, Lord Allendale," she said gently. Austen said, "She is in good heart and travelling well, only slowly because of the baby." Lady Coulter said nothing. She sat and looked at the young English messenger, with her lips parted and her eyes rather wide, so that the white skin of her brow was finely pleated. He hesitated and said, "Your son's child, Mr. Crawford's small boy called Cuzum." "They found him," Sibylla said. He said carefully, "I don't know the story, but they have him quite safe, Lady Coulter. If I may say so, he has just your colouring." "And my son?" Sibylla said finally. I gather—" "Perhaps the letters will tell you," said Austen Gray. "I gather he is still overseas." He left soon after that, but not before a light, brown-haired woman entered, whom he had seen all his youth about Hexham with her late husband Gideon Somerville, and her one small, unkempt daughter, Philippa. Kate Somerville came forward to greet him, and was forestalled by her hostess, the Dowager. "Kate, he has letters from Philippa. She's safe and on her way here with the child." But since women's tears, suppressed, made him uncomfortable, Austen Gray left as soon as possible after that. By the time Philippa arrived at Mid-Coulter, her mother and Cuzum's grandmother between them knew the contents of the letters and diaries by heart, and still could not reconcile them with the undersized 15-year-old who had left her uncle's home in London 2 winters ago, to plant herself willy-nilly in the unsuitable company of Lady Coulter's younger son Francis Crawford of Lymond, the hard-living leader of mercenaries, whose bye-blow Cuzum had been snatched and used in a game by his enemies, until he had caught up with and killed their leader, Graham Reed Mallet. It was typical that in the wild hunt through far lands which followed, the main concern of Crawford of Lymond had been to kill Mallet, not necessarily to rescue the child, and typical that, suspecting it, Philippa Somerville had stuck grimly to him, and biding her time, had found the child and brought it back too. It was at the first reading that Kate stopped, and letting her hand fall, with the letter in it, said in tones of failing belief, "But she was in the harem." Sibylla said calmly, "It doesn't matter. If she says she was untouched, she was untouched, and no one else need know anything of it." "In Flaw Valleys," Kate said, "they'll ask her about the pattern on Suleiman's nightshirt, and I cannot believe that Francis was not fully capable of extracting his own son without Philippa's help. She was probably an unqualified nuisance." Sibylla turned over 1 or 2 pages. "Certainly, she has remarkably little to say in his favour." Kate said glumly, "I don't suppose they were speaking to one another. All she did was saddle him with 2 children to look after."